Hello everyone. On this demo, I'm going to show you one of the great capabilities of Lifecycle workflows to automate those tasks for joiner, mover, lever scenarios. On this particular demo, we're just going to check some of the templates and workflows that we have for joiner scenarios. So what we're going to do is going to go to the Entra Admin Center. We're going to go to the Identity Governance menu, and we're going to go to Lifecycle workflows. On this screen, you're going to have a central place where you can see the schedule of your workflows, how many schedules you have enabled, what schedules are disabled, and the deleted workflows. From here as well, you have a menu to see what workflows you have available, what are the deleted workflows as well, and something important like a custom extension. These custom extensions capabilities allows you to do extensibility actions with logic apps. You can create custom extensions from here and add them to specific lifecycle workflows when you need to. We're going to discuss this later with some of our samples. On workflow settings, you set up the generic workflow settings so for how often they need to run. It can be between 1 hour or 23 hours. This is something you can schedule. You can also set up the domain of the emails that are going to be sent and the company branding banner logo that you want to use. We, of course, have audit logs as well available for all of our users and all of our organizations to audit and log all of these different scenarios that you may have. Let's go ahead and create one workflow so you can see the type of templates that we have. For this demo, we're going to focus on the joiner templates. As you can see, we have onboarding pre-hire employees, onboard new hire employees, and post-onboarding of an employee. These templates, you can see the details on the details menu that is going to show you the out-of-the-box triggers, categories, and what tasks are available for it. This doesn't mean that you can add more tasks. These are just templates that you can use. We're going to select this template for the pre-hire employee. The first thing that we do is, of course, give it a name. And some of the other things that you need to add, like a description, the trigger details, and this is where it comes important. This attribute, employee hire date, is one of the new attributes that are available in Entra ID to run these workflows. It has to be populated, and we have extensive information and documentation on how to map this attribute from HR records or from other means. The days of from event, it's a setting that you can do in case you need to run this on a specific date before the employee hire date. In this case, we're going to leave it at 7, but you have multiple options for this. On the scope, it is very important to consider that if you have different lifecycle workflows for different departments or different type of scenarios, you can add the scope here. And you can add expressions with multiple attributes from the user that will match the scope of the workflow. And this workflow is going to run just for those users that match on this scope. For this particular example, of course, we're selecting that the department property is equals to marketing. On the tasks, this is where you can configure the tasks that are available for this workflow. Like for instance, on this generate tab and send email, we give you options as well to modify the names and the description, and you can copy different users to receive that tab. By default, the recipient of this temporary access pass will be the manager attribute on the user profile. So this is as well why it's important to have that manager attribute configured and mapped on the user profile. The idea is the manager is going to get this temporary access pass that we generated as part of the workflow through an email and send it to the user on day 1. One of the things that I want you to notice is the temporary access pass settings. These settings will basically match the organizational settings that you have on your authentication methods. For instance, if the maximum date on your organizational settings for a temporary access pass is 5 days, this is the maximum that we can set on the workflow. At the same time, if on your organizational settings you have the allowance for this temporary access pass to be used more than one time, you have the ability to switch this toggle and basically put it as one-time use. If your organizational settings are set that all of your temporary access passes are only one-time use, then this setting is not available. Another option that we give our customers is continue workflow execution and error. This basically allows the rest of the workflow to run if there's an error on this specific task. And of course, the enable task checkbox that is available if you want to enable or disable certain tasks. Another important setting is the email customization. So on here, you can see these different variables that we're setting on for the users where how the email is going to look like for those. And you can also, define different languages and localization for this email. Let's now add another task to our workflow. You can do this by going to the Add Task menu. And from here, you're going to have a lot of built-in tasks that you can add to this specific workflow. As you can tell, some of the categories will be tasks that can be used with multiple templates or tasks that are unique for a specific template like joiner. But the tasks that you're going to see available here belong to the category of joiner and maybe another one. So for this specific example, maybe on pre-hire, we also want to run a custom task extension, which is going to run a logic app to maybe have a connector with systems like ServiceNow, generate a ticket for the hardware procurement, or whatever the case is. So the logic apps is that extensibility that allows you to call other systems through APIs or some sort of automation that you need to run for specific workflows. Maybe it will send us an onboarding reminder email, and maybe ahead of time we can do a user package assignment, where we will leave this for another template. So I'm going to show you this, where one of the things is when we select this task about running custom task extension, you're going to see this little warning. That means we need to select something there that is missing. And in this case, is that we don't have that custom extension that we need to run. So for instance, we can just do ServiceNow, hardware procurement. The list of logic apps is the one that we saw before that you can add to the lifecycle workflows. And this logic app can be managed through Azure, and then you can see the code flow and all of the different things that the logic app is going to run at the time of execution of this one. And just that the email for the temporary access pass, we have capabilities to also copy some other people besides the manager and customize some of the emails. When we hit next, we're going to get a quick review of the settings that we just set. We can enable the schedule here. We're actually going to enable it and create the task or the workflow. Once that workflow is created, we're going to see it available in our list. And from here, you also have the ability to see the workflow history, how many times has run with the results, and if it was successful or not, and some of the other process users with failures, total process users with this workflow, any failed tasks, and the current version of the workflow. On the versions of the workflow, one thing that we can do is actually see the current version that we have. For instance, if we make changes to the specific workflow, we will gonna see different numbers here. And on each of these versions, we will see what settings were on that version, so we can keep track of changes that had happened on that specific workflow. I'm going to show you that in the overview, we can actually see something that is a run on demand at the top. So in cases where you don't have to wait, or you don't need to wait, or you just don't want to wait for the workflow to run, you can just run these tasks on demand, select the user that the workflow is going to apply, and just basically run it on demand. So you don't have to wait for that schedule or maybe for the date if you need to do it sooner. Let's now take a look at some of the other options or workflows templates that we have for the joiner scenario. We have, for instance, the onboard a new hire employee. If we take a look at this one, you're going to notice something different, that you can select the attribute for employee hire date or even create a date time of the object of the user in Entra ID. And you can change the date from event because this option becomes read-only, because the idea is that the onboarded new hire employee will be on day one, specifically on employee hire date when it's going to run. Same thing with the scope. We can select multiple scopes depending on the needs that we have. We may have out-of-the-box tasks that are just related to new hire employee, but as we saw before, we can just definitely add more tasks if we need to. One of the important things that you can do with a new hire employee or some of the joiner scenarios is maybe request a user package assignment. It is important to maybe also add the users to a certain group. We're just going to select a group as an example. And we're also going to select what access package the user can get. You can also select maybe, let's pick this example right here. And because every access package will have a specific policy, you need to select what policy will apply for that specific access package. If you have multiple access packages, then you can add another task for another access package the same way. Selecting the policy and saving it. And this is how you create a new hire employee workflow. If we want to create another workflow for the other scenario, which is post-boarding of an employee, similar case, you're going to notice that you can, in this case, change what attribute you want to use and what days from event post employee hire date or create a date time for the object. We also have scopes. We have multiple tasks. So it really depends on your needs and the timing that you want to run these specific things. Have always in mind that if the built-in tasks that we offer here are not doing all of the things that you need, then always consider run a custom task extension with the capabilities of Logic Apps.